Hello and welcome to the 48th episode of In Our Defense. Nearly hitting a half a century, Abhishek.
Yeah, I mean, great going.
Yeah.
It feels good.
Yeah.
I was actually thinking about this, that 50th episode should be a grand and a special one.
Actually, yeah, we should do something.
And now that In Our Defense is reaching the top rankings, I think it's the perfect timing to be around the 50th, to be around your half century, isn't it? Anna just told us, our producer, that between 16th and 18th Feb, In Our Defense was ranked 1. For some reason, we missed it.
Yeah. I think she was busy doing something and I was not here.
But anyway, that's great news to share. Of course, I tweeted earlier that we were ranked 2. Of course, the next question was, when can we be ranked 1?
It's very soon, by the way.
For the record, it's happened. We could not tell the world about our success, but fine. I think it's one way of saying that no big deal. We can stay at 1 for a longer period of time now.
Yeah.
So hopefully that will happen.
Yeah, and it's thanks to our listeners and our viewers now,
Yes.
because of whom we've reached this position. And so thank you, everyone. Thank you for tuning in and for logging in and watching us on video for the last few episodes now. Since we decided to also add video to our audio conversations, and we'd love to hear from us, and we'd like to know what you think of our podcast and what you think of our conversations.
And all our viewers, listeners, also please congratulate Dev. Something that I forgot. I should have said in the beginning. He's just back after his wedding and after a short holiday.
Yeah.
Where were you, by the way?
I was in Maldives.
Okay.
Lovely place.
Good place to be in. So feel free to reach out to him and congratulate him. Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much, man. And you can drop a text to us at 8588966996, or you can comment on us on whatever platform you're listening to us on, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcast, or YouTube, where this video will be up of this episode. Right. So Abhishek, how have you been? I was not there for the last week or so.
Yeah, I mean, you were away for a good reason. It was a very hectic news cycle around this time, I think. Kejriwal, Sisodia, so much was happening. So yeah, it's been quite hectic that way. And but you can share something from your end. I mean, I can only give you news updates. You can tell us how was Maldives and
Lovely.
What does your wife do?
She's a lawyer.
Deadly combination, journalist, lawyer.
And lawyer, yeah.
Great.
Not deadly, but also I think a bit cumbersome. So apparently, these banks don't give loans to journalists
And lawyers. That's why I said deadly. Exactly.
And cops, by the way, do you know that?
See, cops have a soft corner also. They have a love-hate relationship with journalists and lawyers.
Yeah.
They always, blame us
Tough
for a lot of
customers,
things.
yeah.
But then they realize कि ठीक है यार, you can't, be on the other side of these people. So they have a love-hate relationship with us. Even I've heard that people don't want to rent out their homes to lawyers.
Lawyers or journalists.
Journalists are better off than lawyers, I think.
Yeah, I think it's because because they know the law of the land, they can kind of be tough customers and they won't let things happen as and then the landlord wants and whatever. Perhaps because of that, and also because I think India has very tough property laws, so it's very.
So is it
favored.
something? These are new learnings for you, like
No. I've
I've
known this for a while, but I think India has property laws that are always in favor of the person occupying the property physically at a given moment. So usually in Bombay, since you've done some reporting in Bombay, there were lots of cases about these rehabilitations of where people would not want to leave and the landlords would want to sell the places to
Delhi
builders,
also,
but,
these kind of things.
So this is not a law podcast; this is a defense podcast. And so we'll talk about a momentous moment in India's defense history, which happened a few years ago on February 26th, the Balakot Airstrike.
Fourth anniversary.
Yes.
We're slightly late as far because of...
When this episode will be out, will be 3-4 days after that.
But still topical, I think.
Yeah, still topical, yeah. First question, where were you when the news broke?
Sleeping.
Same. And how did you wake up to it?
Call from office. DGISPR had tweeted.
Yeah.
DGISPR actually broke the biggest story of the year.
I think
and
it's
to the
6
to the
o'clock or
world.
something in the morning, I think. 5:36.
Earlier than that.
Earlier? Okay.
Yeah, I think it was about 5:30 or something. 3:45 it was done and dusted.
Right.
But this we got to know later. And I mean, I had just come back from Kashmir.
Oh, okay.
Post Pulwama.
Because you were reporting,
Yeah, post Pulwama. I had just come back from Kashmir. And see, there was a lot of talk and speculation that India will hit back.
Yes.
But frankly, I'm telling you, anybody who says had any inkling of an airstrike is lying.
And this was proper Pakistan, by the way.
This was not LOC or something. This was about 100 kilometers
into Pakistan.
Pakistan
Sovereign territory.
Yeah, so 100 kilometers is quite a bit. Yeah. So nobody had an idea that India will hit back through an air raid. So it was big. And obviously, when we got to know, it was a hectic day, rushing in the morning, giving updates. The desk, the web desk was after me to give something more concrete, something more meaty and juicy than what's already known. Because, there were so many things that people wanted to know.
Yes.
And nobody was speaking. It was really, really tough. Nobody was speaking in the initial hours. There was absolute silence.
Oh, so you're telling me that for the first couple of hours, you couldn't even verify what had happened?
No, I mean, we could verify. We had a confirmation that this has happened. But, you want details.
More than that. Right.
You want details. Which aircraft? How did it happen? What was the code name? Of course, all these things came out later. We'll get into the code name also. That's an interesting story.
Yeah.
Operation Bandar. So I'm just trying to sort of, through a timeline, I'm trying to look back on what happened. So, of course, I had hit ground early and there were people there in South Block extremely early, obviously. Then there was the news trickled in that it was at 3:45 when Air Chief Marshal B.S. Dhanwa, then Air Chief Marshal B.S. Dhanwa, informed the NSA and the PM that it's
done successfully.
Done, yeah. But I was, because frankly, for me, it was as a reporter, it was something. I think we've covered history. After 1971, this was the first time the Indian Air Force did a cross-border, full-scale, full-throttle air assault on Pakistani territory. Even 1999 Kargil, the Air Force did not cross
the LOC.
The line of control. That was called Operation Safed Sagar. By the way, there's something very interesting about these code names. Maybe we can do another episode sometime on how these code names happen. The problem is that nobody has real answers. Going off at a tangent, unfortunately, but it often happens with us. Like Operation Snow Leopard for the action in Ladakh. You can correlate why snow leopard, because snow leopards are found there. Kargil Air Force operation was Safed Sagar. I think it was sort of an antithesis to what the heights of Kargil are, but the commonality was the snow, the snow-clad peaks.
Yeah.
So they look
Looking like an
Safed,
ocean, basically.
Safed Sagar. But Operation Bandar.
When I got that information on our system that this is what it was called, I just like, are you sure? I mean,
I have
should
a theory.
we second guess and verify?
Do you have any, do you know why? See, there's no clarity to me, frankly. Why exactly? Because there are several things that do the rounds. But I have a theory why Operation Bandar.
I frankly have none.
See, my theory is that there were two packages sent to disguise the Pakistanis. Where are we really coming?
Yeah.
So the dummy package was sent towards the JAM. The JAM headquarters, Bawalpur. JAM headquarters. So I think it's that disguise, hence the name Bandar. You made a monkey out of somebody, Or another weird theory that I have is that, in a forest, it's the monkey who confuses the tiger.
Right.
By making funny calls, diverting the tiger. And also it's the monkey that tells the entire jungle that the tiger is on the prowl. So I think that it has to do something with the disguise.
Yeah.
And hence Operation Bandar.
But do you really think there's so much thinking involved in picking such names? Could it just be like, some random officer just came up with it?
No,
and
there has to be
they went with
something
it?
behind. I'm sure. Otherwise, why will you come up with some name? There has to be some.
True. Yeah.
Otherwise, there cannot be any context. I think.
Have you not asked this question to anyone?
No, of course we have asked, but
no answers.
Yeah, again, as I said, there are theories. There's one theory about Ramayana as well. That, how it had some. How Lord Hanuman, played a stellar role, wreaked havoc in Lanka.
Right, Lanka.
So वो बंदर उससे
okay, like flew to Lanka and
so that
kind of
thing,
maybe
that's
perhaps.
also there. So but it adds to the storytelling, I think,
yeah.
isn't it? So coming back to how the day started, how things happened, I think I got the first bit of meaty information around 9:30 on what exactly is the place that has been hit. So I got a full dossier on this particular
Hilltop.
terror camp.
Jabba top.
Yeah, it's not a hideout. It was a camp,
Okay.
and it had details of what all happens here, what is the infrastructure, and it was a full-fledged military-style training camp. And for the first time, there was confirmation of the number of people that could possibly be inside. And I'm clarifying here that I don't think me for sure has not done a story saying 300 people died or 200 people died. Neither at India Today, we never said 300 mar gaye, 400 mar gaye type of things. But yes, there was a confirmation that this particular place can accommodate 200 or 300 people at one point of time.
Yeah.
That's the strength of
the
this
camp.
place.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that at that point of time,
That's the
there
number
were
of people
200
over
people there, there were 300 people there. So these details when I got, I thought, yaar, kuch to mila. And it was exclusive bit of information. And then as the day progressed, some things kept coming in. But of course, we knew that, this is not going to end here.
Yeah, of course.
And my source who gave me this information early morning, which I said the baby broke then. It was a very short meeting because, I had to rush back for my lives. And, it's a catch-22 for a TV reporter in situations like this because you obviously need it live throughout. But you also need a story.
Yeah, so you can't do the reporting per se.
And because of my newspaper print background, I'm always okay. I tell the desk that
wait, give me some time.
Wait, I want to come with a solid story rather than just faffing. I know I will not be on air. I'm okay sacrificing my on air time to get something really good, really big. So that's why you hit ground early.
Yeah.
So constant calls, aajao, we need you. So that fight is happening. You're trying to extract information. So finally I got this, and this officer, he said, just when I was leaving, that I had in the conversation I asked, what do you think
will happen now?
Will Pakistanis do?
Yeah.
So he predicted. He said they'll come back and they'll do it in the same language.
Yeah.
That's basic military protocol. You always respond in the same language.
An eye for an eye.
So if an air raid has happened on you, you have to respond the same way.
With an air raid, yeah.
And so I said, are you sure? I mean, if that happens, then we could be going to war. He said, let's see. So, you don't, when you do something, then you have to be
prepared
for what the adversary, the enemy does. And within 24 hours, they came back. Of course, it was neutralized. Abhinandan happened. We'll discuss all of that in detail.
Yeah.
But that's how the day started, it was extremely thrilling. Again, there was a lot of speculation that India is going to respond, and everybody was thinking something like a surgical strike because it had happened before. I think that air raid was done also as an element of surprise because even the Pakistanis were ready.
Yeah, they knew something would. There would be.
They were
response at some
ready. They
point,
were
yeah.
ready that a surgical strike has happened before. Even post the surgical strike, there had been land shallow raids that the Indian Army had conducted
Across the LOC.
across the LOC, crossing over. One story was broken by me. So they were prepared. So I think that element of surprise wouldn't be there if we did a
Land.
a land
Yeah.
crossing
Right.
and launching an assault on one of the terror camps. And also it was important to hit this particular place because this was the place where the conspiracy was hatched. That Ghazi fellow,
Yeah.
which General Dhillon, who was one of the guests on
our previous, episode.
in our defense, has written a book, and he was here. You were there. You were away that time. You were on leave. Kitne Ghazi gaye, kitne Ghazi aaye. That playing on his code name.
Yeah.
That Ghazi fellow was also trained there. And then there was intel that they are planning another attack from the same place.
Right.
Hence, that place had to be hit. And other than air, there wasn't any other way to do it.
Yeah.
So I think that's the reason why, one, it was important to hit that particular camp, and the other was the element of surprise.
Yeah, right. Interesting. I mean, yeah, I can also recall that day. I mean, as journalists, these are the kind of days we live for. I mean,
Yeah.
it sounds, kind of bad to say that,
Yeah.
because I think the best days of our careers are usually when something terrible is going on somewhere.
But unfortunately.
Unfortunately,
yes,
yeah. But that's what we chose. I mean, so yeah. So these are the days we live for, and I was sleeping, by the way, obviously, and the person who was supposed to be on the morning shift. So my website, because we are 24/7 operation, we work in shifts.
Yeah.
There's one person who's doing the graveyard, the overnight shift from midnight till early morning, and then the morning team comes and kind of takes over. So the person who was heading the shift that day, he gave me a call. I was sleeping, sound asleep, and he just said, "Bro, India has bombed Pakistan." And I was like, "What the?" I could, because I was sleeping, and these are the words I hear on the phone, and I just could not comprehend it for a second. I was like, "What are you saying?" And then he kind of said, the DGISPR, which is the Pakistani military spokesperson, he's tweeted, so he read out the tweet at that moment, and we had the story up with just that basic information.
Yeah.
But then, like you said, we were all, so I remember just taking a quick shower, and I used to stay very close by to the office, so I think I reached office within 10 minutes that day. Rode my bike, just like not very safe speed, I might say, but I just reached office and then called up everyone. It was like a all hands on deck operation. This was I think the only time in the 6 years I've been here when we ended up calling the entire team to work. There was not a single person. Weekly offs cancelled. Someone who was supposed to go for a seminar on something to do with work itself was called back.
Yeah.
He was at Taj in Delhi. He was just getting into the breakfast, and I called him like, "Bro, come back." And so all hands on deck sort of situation, and we had stories left, right, and center. And I remember us deskies trying to because even we were starved for information, like, because I think
Nobody
as a journalist,
speaking, as I told you,
yeah,
nobody was speaking.
And as a journalist, a lot of our listeners and viewers won't know this, but more than reporting something, it's also the inherent curiosity of our own. So it's
Yes,
like
of course.
Abhishek wants to know, I want to know. So it was like curiosity, ki bhai hua kya, janna tha. But yes, it was a crazy day, and it spilled over into the next day, like you said.
So when General Dhillon was with us, we obviously talked about Balakot as well.
Yeah.
Because it happened just 12 days after.
Yeah, 12 days after the Pulwama attack.
And he was still there. I mean,
Commanding
he was a
officer
Chinar
of,
Corps, that he was commanding the Chinar Corps that time. So I actually raised this point with him that as a general who was so transparent, he was on Twitter, he shared this story of how he actually, despite army rules saying that serving officers should not be on Twitter,
Yes.
how he was allowed, and how his one of his young officer actually told him, "Sir, you're not allowed to do this." And he said, I'll see how I'll deal with it. And he's got permissions, etc. And he told us the story that, he wanted some kind of an authoritative, credible voice coming through him, in Kashmir. So he said, why should we hold ourselves back? He also said that the officer suggested that you keep some kind of a pseudonym. So he said, it beats the purpose then.
Yeah.
फिर तो मैं किसी से भी करवा लूँ, isn't it? But the idea is that I have to do it. So I thought it was very appropriate for me to ask him because he believed in this kind of a communication system. So I raised this question to him that did we lose out on not just information warfare but just putting out the facts, because Pakistan was doing a lot of propaganda early on.
Yeah.
And I also told him that you'll feel happy about this, that whatever little bit of information actually came in, it was by the army. So for some reason, the Air Force and other wings of the Ministry of Defense or whoever, there has to be somebody who should have just given out some basic details. And there was a lot of delay. And because of that, actually Pakistan created a lot of propaganda. And it continued the next day when the dogfight happened, and when Abhinandan, wing commander, now group captain, Abhinandan Vartaman's MiG-21 went down. So Pakistanis were on a completely different plane.
Yeah.
दो बंदे आए, तीन बंदे. Imran Khan, the Prime Minister, changing statements. Do you remember?
I remember, yeah.
So initially they said we have downed 2 Indian aircraft.
One of them is in the hospital and one, something.
One is in the hospital, one is in our custody. So the guy who was in the hospital, where did he go? So till
there's no answer. And this is, by the way, on the record statement from the BGIS and the DGISP as well in a press conference where he said
when
that.
When they say कि F-16 नहीं गिराया, ये नहीं गिराया, अरे यार दूसरा बंदा, तीसरा बंदा that you keep talking, that you were talking about that day.
Yes.
What happened? Forget about the F-16, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're talking humans here.
Where's the person who's in the hospital? Yeah.
So
we're treating him, right?
That was a clear giveaway that, Pakistan was indulging in.
I know, I was going to talk to you about this later in the episode, but now that you raised it, I think the one takeaway from Balakot, the years down the line, especially after, having had all these chats with you on this podcast, a theme of which has been information warfare, whether it comes to the China crisis or the war in Russia and Ukraine and how information has played a role there as well. Is that, during the Balakot Airstrike, I think India did lose out on being on
definitely. There's no doubt
because from the moment of breaking the news of the strike itself to declaring
it shouldn't have come from DGS.
To declaring that we have an Indian pilot in custody. We in the newsroom found out through a Pakistani news channel when there was a press conference going on and they played that video of Abhinandan Vartaman blindfolded and he was being questioned by, I think, a Pakistan army officer. We were caught unawares, and it was half an hour after that the Air Force confirmed that.
The blessing in disguise was that even in those propaganda videos, Group Captain Abhinandan actually comes out showing his
definitely
true professionalism.
Yes, definitely. I remember because the Pakistan army officer kept asking questions, and he said, "I can only tell you my name and my I think rank, and that I'm an Indian Air Force officer, but I can't tell you more than that. I'm sorry."
Even in that, and there was a story in the Dawn, Pakistani newspaper, that it was a front page story that when his aircraft came down and, he was, people mobbed him.
Yeah, the locals
beating him up and things like that. And it's a fact that it was some Fauji who came to his rescue and all of that. But the Dawn story said, now I don't know whether it's true or not, the Dawn story said that all the papers, maps, etc., whatever he had, he ate them up.
He ate them up. I know the story. Yeah, I've heard of it.
So this was a story in the Dawn. We have not said this. Yeah. So, a lot of times such stuff is folklore. But now that it's there in black and white in a Pakistani newspaper, we would like to believe it's true. This is what
because, I'll tell you something because... I'm definitely sure he was carrying some papers because he's a pilot. He definitely have some maps and all that, right? If Pakistan had custody of those, I think they would have made a noise about it.
They would have.
If you remember, there was a story about how they seized his pistol and I think a watch before handing him over.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
But no one ever said that they also seized papers from him, documents from him. Because I think the DGISPR would have come on television
When
and made a huge...
I mean, kiddish stuff that they were indulging.
Yeah,
literally,
they definitely would have said, "Oh, we found this map on his."
it was quite
pocket."
juvenile,
Yeah.
quite juvenile for a professional military to be indulging in that kind of a narrative.
Yeah.
Even post his his custody, those propaganda videos, chai peete hue, chai achhi hai,
which had like
kharab
so
hai,
many cuts, if you remember. I think
exactly,
we read it in, I think Ankit, who was a guest on our previous
our OSINT expert. I mean, he had done a story.
Found like 32 jump cuts across
Exactly.
the video. Yeah.
I mean, it was clear that a lot of propaganda was happening. So, vis-a-vis, we did not put out many factual things that could have been put out early on to be ahead. And these are lessons. There are lessons to be learned from there, and many people who are into giving out information, they concede. They say that we
could have done better.
It better.
And in fact, I think like you said, the lessons that we all learned. We discussed this during one of our previous episodes when the new when new information of a brawl with between Indian and Chinese soldiers along the LAC came out. The day after, a video went viral of a clash which showed Indian soldiers beating Chinese soldiers with
which was
sticks.
Not that clash?
Not that clash, but the video went viral right at that right moment, and you had said that actually is a good strategy of information warfare. So maybe lessons were learned. We'll talk more about that day, Balakot Airstrike, what happened after that, looking back at it 4 years, and what you've said was a point between India and Pakistan when they almost came to war. But Abhishek and I are discussing about a day 4 years ago when India crossed the international border. I wouldn't say actually crossed. I mean, there's...
in air, airspace.
In airspace, the airspace, and bombed Pakistan. Bombed a location in Pakistan that was that Intel said had a terror camp run by an organization that had just a couple of weeks before carried out the Pulwama suicide attack, in which 40 CRPF men lost their lives. A very distressing day. I should not really be telling our listeners or viewers this, but I've seen those photos that we chose not to publish of the carnage just after, and the road covered with flesh. It's distressing to imagine that bus had human beings, and I think it even took the military some time to identify the
even,
mortal remains.
When crossing that exact spot, even now, I have been to Kashmir after that also so many times on reporting assignments, and you cross that highway where Pulwama lies. It's sort of an expressway now. And that place, Lethpura, there's a big board as well. So whenever I cross that place, there's an uneasy feeling, I've seen a lot of bloodshed. 26/11 was, I think, the highest levels of violence that I've covered. I do get an uneasy feeling while crossing from that place.
Because as journalists, we are normally known not to react very emotionally because it's just happening so fast and so quickly. But I think this one was different for me. I mean, like you said, you've seen violence before during 26/11. For me, this was the first such a moment where I, for example, was too young when Kargil happened. So the first time I was covering something where two nations were almost at the brink of a war. And I think that moment was when I saw Wing Commander Abdul Warthaman on the Pakistani channel, like I said. For a couple of minutes, the gravity of it finally dawned upon me. Something that you were covering, and you've mentioned that on multiple episodes previously, that people don't really know the extent to which tensions between India and Pakistan were triggered because of Pulwama. Not just the Balakot Airstrike, the Pulwama in general.
And Balakot was an aftermath of
that. So seeing him on that in Pakistani captivity and blindfolded answering questions, etc., it just dawned upon me, this is real.
So see what happened. I mean, if you just look at the events that took place, first time since 71, an airstrike. Within 24 hours, first time since 1971, the Pakistani Air Force does a strike. First time since 1999, you have an Indian officer, soldier in the enemy's captivity. I think it was 60 hours or something.
Yeah, 60 hours. Yeah.
A little over 2 days.
Yeah.
There was a blue-on-blue incident.
Yes. We didn't discuss that, but we'll come back to that.
So I'm just telling you the events that will look like we were at war. Isn't it? So blue and blue, for those who do not understand military parlance, it's collateral damage where by mistake you hit your own assets. So we had activated our air defense systems when the Pakistani air raid happened. And unfortunately, we hit one of our own helicopters in Badgam. There were casualties.
An army helicopter, right? Or
it was an army helicopter. Was it an army helicopter? No, it had Air Force personnel.
But it doesn't matter. But it doesn't matter. It was an Indian military.
No, it was an Indian Air Force. It was an Air Force helicopter because the court of inquiry was done by the Air Force.
Okay.
So these are all events that are likely to happen in a war.
In a war, yeah.
So it wasn't declared. It did not get prolonged. But those 3-4 days were war.
Yeah.
See, a lot was happening even at the line of control. It's just that because the airstrike had overshadowed those things because ये तो रोज ही होता रहता था.
हाँ, क्या report करेंगे इसमें?
Okay, so there was a lot of shelling, there was a lot of exchanges, exchange of fire at the line of control when all this was happening. So for people who are deployed, who are serving there, they were at war, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it was a situation that I don't know how there was divine intervention or what was it that things did not get escalated.
Yeah.
It was very easy for this to have escalated and gotten into a kinetic skirmish at the borders.
But, I have a theory. I don't know if I've talked to you about this or not, but I have a theory that actually the capture of Abhinandan Vardhaman was the one that stopped it from spiraling.
I think
because then that's when even the world kind of got involved. Oh my God, this is getting serious now.
I would agree with you because I think it sort of made Pakistan very conscious.
Yeah.
What to do with him.
Yeah. Because you obviously can't beat him up.
You can't keep him for too long.
Too long either, yeah.
So that became an icebreaker.
Yeah.
I think that became an icebreaker of sorts because, if his MiG-21 did not go down and he did not eject, I don't know how we would have responded to the air raid that they
second
did.
air raid, by the Pakistani air raid, yeah.
And even in that particular dogfight, how far the two air forces could go.
Yeah.
Because that sort of, once that jet went down and he was in custody of the Pakistanis, it was suddenly a sort of the play was called off.
Yeah.
If you can say so, isn't it?
It's like a ceasefire. It's like
suddenly, what to do now. So, I mean, very hypothetical thing to say. But
I have a feeling, because, I have read unconfirmed reports and, this is not something that I think we've reported on our own as a group. But there have been reports in foreign agencies that there was a lot of pressure from the Saudis and the US on Pakistan to release him as soon as possible.
Yes.
I think, I forgot who it was, but recently someone from the US has written a book in which, I think Mike Pompeo, Mike Pompeo.
Yes, of course.
In which he referred to this particular time and when he said he really was scared that India and Pakistan were going to war. And he was in close talks with somebody high up in the Indian government. And I think he said the Pakistani army chief himself to avoid and kind of de-escalate the situation. Though, being US, they could be trying to hype up their own importance and, say that, oh my God, we ensured preventing a conflict between India and Pakistan. But I think there was some truth to what he was saying because you've said similar things in the past about how serious the situation was. But so I think the capture of Abhinandan Vardhaman, I think, did kind of put a stop to
it sort of it was a forced ceasefire. Let's end here because, of course, our concern was that he needs to be released and he needs to be released quickly. Pakistan also, as I said, they were unsure of how to deal with the situation.
So let me ask you about that. We began this second part of the episode with this moment I had in the newsroom when I saw him on the channel, and it dawned on me. So, like you said, that inside the military they knew that Pakistan was going to respond. Yes. Obviously, so they were prepared for it. But what do you think?
See, that's the difference between our strike and their strike.
Yeah.
There was no element of surprise.
Yeah.
When they struck.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why we could sort of neutralize it. See, they did not get the targets right.
Yeah.
The Pakistani version of things is that we purposely
missed.
I
think I remember
targets.
them saying we aimed at the particular thing and then we chose not
purposely,
to fire.
Yeah, we purposely did not, because we did not want an escalation. We just wanted to send across a message.
Yeah.
This is their version. So I will not get into whether it's right, wrong, or whatever. But the fact is that we were prepared. We were expecting this to happen. We were ready. And I think because there was no element of surprise is the fact that, that there was a dogfight.
Yeah.
When we went, there was no dogfight, no?
Yeah.
हम करके आ गए. Also that element of disguise, which I said that there was a different package sent.
Because I think there was some response from the Pakistani Air Force, but I think they kind of went towards the second package. Because
that's what I'm saying.
That was heading towards the headquarters of JEM.
And they were late.
Yeah, they were late,
and when they saw that nothing is happening, they
realized.
So that's exactly what an element of surprise is, when you're caught off guard.
Yeah.
And that's what happened that day.
Right. But so what I was going to ask you was, so we were prepared. So that was expected. They'll hit back. Okay. What was the reaction when they realized, we've lost one of our pilots over there? Not lost as in he's not there anymore, but like we've lost it to their...
No, there was panic.
There was panic,
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. There was a lot of panic. And suddenly the scenario changed. It was about getting him back. The dynamics of everything changed. And similarly for the Pakistanis.
Yeah, of course.
They couldn't do much with him. How long do they keep him? I think if they had kept him long, things would have really gone out of hand. But they did play mind games.
They did, yeah.
We were expecting him to be released sometime in the morning, remember?
Yeah.
At the Wagah
Tari crossing, yeah.
And I think there were some officials also who went from here. And finally they came late evening, around 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. So a lot of mind games were being played behind the scenes.
Yeah, and if you remember that video, the infamous tea sipping video, so I think one of our colleagues back then even wrote a piece of how the movie Udi had kind of got to Pakistan, because there's a moment in the video where he says, talking about the villagers who had beat him up after he crash landed in Pakistan, in POK, is that unka josh bahut uncha tha. Which is technically incorrect Hindi, because Josh is not uncha, Josh is perhaps upar. So the reference was house the Josh high, sir. So it's something that was caught up on the somebody over here. Basically this is, because that tells you this video is a bit, because no Hindi speaking or an Indian
also
would
that
say
Dawn
Josh
story,
uncha tha.
Also that Dawn story that we referred to earlier, it also, had it explained how he sort of actually took on that mob all alone.
Yeah. I think
he also fired in the air.
Yeah.
So the fact that he was completely aware
of what was going on,
and to have that kind of presence of mind has finally showcased the professionalism of the Indian military, isn't it? So in hindsight, it was a blessing in disguise, if we can say so.
Right. So when you say there was a lot of panic, so I mean, was there any sort of plan that you are aware of, since you were on ground reporting of what to do now, or was it just wait and watch and let's see?
No, there were several plans.
I'm talking military action.
Yes. See, the highest form of military action had already been taken.
Yeah.
So अब ये नहीं था कि we have to take the big decision. तो कर लिया ना. So now you had breached that frontier. After that, it was easier to take decisions.
Okay.
Remember 26/11 also there was a lot of talk.
Right.
Should we do this? Should we do that? The government was not ready.
Yeah.
It's very clear that, military action in this country is not a military decision.
It's a political decision. True.
I am not saying ये government ने ठीक किया, उसने गलत किया. I'm not getting into that slinging match. Also, sometimes, you have things like questions being asked to generals. Are we ready to do this?
We've discussed
that.
Yeah.
Obviously, we are ready. What else do you want?
That's the job.
So, क्या बोलेंगे that we are not ready? And if they are not ready for whatever operational or tactical reasons, they will tell that to the political
government
leadership.
and not to us. Yeah.
And a fine example is 1971.
Yeah, Sam Manekshaw had told Indira
Sam
Gandhi.
Manekshaw,
Not right
as the army chief, told Indira Gandhi that we cannot do it right now because it was March, April, and he said by the time we get in the eastern sector, the rains will start, and there was a fine example of what happened with Netaji's INA.
Yes.
In fighting in the east, they got stuck in the rain. So there was history backing this argument. So if you're not ready for any tactical or operational reason, you communicate it, isn't it? So anyway, that was an aside, as we always get into. But there was one more controversy that we've not touched upon. It struck me. Again, there was a political controversy over this. That proof chahiye.
Oh yes.
Is there proof that we have what the government is claiming? And of course, that turned into a big controversy. That what proof do you want from your own military, from your own government? We are saying so. And then I think the problem, I'll tell you where it started, was claims that we have killed 300 terrorists.
Yeah, I think that was the part where the problematic part. Yeah.
And I know this very well. How did this happen? In none of the military briefings were we told that 300 people have been killed.
Yeah.
I think these leaks of plants were coming from some sections of the government. Again, I am not here in judgment to say whether those were credible or not. Because that information wasn't coming to people who cover the military or defense.
Right. I know what you're trying to say. Yeah.
So it was coming to a very different section of reporters.
Yeah.
And I remember having a sort of discussion and arguments also in the newsroom. Why are we running this? Because the military isn't saying so. The security establishment isn't saying so. Who's saying it then? And I think we brought it down also. We sort of did not play it up. And this is something that riled up the military big time.
I can imagine so.
Big time. On record, Air Chief Marshal was asked this question. I think he was in an event in Chennai, outside of Delhi. And he was asked this. So how many terrorists were killed and what sort of evidence do we have or something like that. So he said, it's not my job to go and count bodies.
Yes, I remember this quote. Yeah.
Very strong. And he wasn't somebody who would lose his temper. He was a very cool, calm kind of person. I interviewed him, I think in May, which was the first full-scale interview that the Air Force Chief gave post Balakot. So obviously he was expecting a lot of questions on Balakot. That was also a very interesting interview. Before I get to that, so he said this, that my pilots have a job. They are fighter pilots. They are given targets. They go.
They hit those targets.
They hit those targets and they come
back.
Then the second aspect about the pictures, that why didn't we have solid pictorial evidence? What went wrong? The reasoning that I have been given was, which sounds pretty okay. I mean, one can believe that it was a very cloudy night. And our aperture radars within the aircraft that are supposed to capture those images of what's happened outside were grainy. Hence, you did not have very clear pictures of what happened. And of course, it was night time. Coming back to Air Chief Marshal Dhanua, so he was quite irritated with this. And, I think I do not want to sort of attribute something to him which he hasn't said. So it's just a clarification before somebody misinterprets it.
Yeah.
I think he was sending a message. Whoever is talking about all this,
Should stop.
just shut up.
Yeah.
It was a message to them,
Yeah.
isn't it? And a decent one.
Yeah.
And I think after that it stopped.
It did. I was just going to say that. It did stop. I mean, first of all, India officially till this date has never ever claimed X number
No,
of
it's for
people were
Pakistan
killed.
to tell.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because,
You should never have this narrative in the first place.
yeah.
How many did we kill? Ulta to yaar, we were saying that we have ensured that there is no collateral damage. The kind of weaponry used
Yeah, precision.
was to make sure that there is no collateral damage. In that interview to me, Air Chief Marshal Dhanua said that if we wanted this to be a propaganda exercise, we would have used more heavy caliber weaponry
Yeah.
and just destroyed the entire place.
Yeah.
If the idea was just to show
Damage.
destruction and
Yeah.
damage, we could have done that.
Yeah.
But we just wanted to hit that particular camp, and that's what professionalism is. I think that's the right narrative. So whoever decided to go in with 300 killed, I think they just got it wrong.
Yeah, yeah. And I think this again, harks back to what we discussed before the break about how there not being a solid information dissemination policy or strategy just in the aftermath of the strike. Because the strike, like you said, was not unprecedented, but like a big, big deal. Unprecedented, at least since 71.
It was, yeah. It was
Since
post
71.
71, it was unprecedented.
It was it, yeah. So for something of this magnitude, you'd expect there to be a proper communication strategy of okay, who'll say what at what given time to what. For example, UN को बताना है, US को बताना है, journalist को बताना है, Pakistan को शायद से बताना पड़े, तो who'll say what. But I think that was kind of missing.
No, that was completely missing. Completely missing.
I think in that, because I'm guessing what was happening was key journalists across the board, whether it's defense reporters, political reporters, everyone was just calling up everybody and trying to figure out, just give us something.
And
just give us
again,
something.
on that, it was 27th evening after the dogfight, where we were claiming that we have brought down an F-16.
F-16, yeah.
So there was a very hurried kind of a press briefing outside South Block.
I remember of all the three service chiefs.
No, they were not the chiefs. There were 3 senior officers, I think, 2-star officers from all the 3 services.
Where they displayed some
and they displayed
wing, right?
some part of the
F-16.
of the AMRAAM missile,
Yeah,
which the F-16 uses, some part of the F-16. And frankly, it looked bad.
Okay.
If you're making this kind of a claim, it should be done in a very professional manner.
Right.
And also, if you want messaging, why have 3 people standing? Someone told me, actually, a young officer told me, very interesting thing. He said, we shouldn't have done all this. We should have brought in a maximum Major Saab and asked him to brief on these other recoveries.
That's it.
These are recoveries that we have found from there. Isme kya badi baat hai? And it shouldn't have been done in Delhi. It should have been done somewhere, maybe in Northern Command, close to the scene of action.
Action, yeah.
Closest to there. But journalists would have reached there anyway.
Yeah.
Stringers, journalists, they would have. The idea is messaging. You don't get messaging right. You don't enhance the messaging just because it's happening in the lawns of South Block.
Yeah, and because it's like 2-star officers.
Isn't it? It's what the message, it's the message that you're sending.
Yeah, true.
So I thought that was a great idea. And this was one of the younger officers. He said, you should have just shown from there, this is what we found.
Yeah. And we've discussed this during our previous episode on the national security strategy that India is missing with, where you had raised the same point in respect to Balakot specifically about there not being information strategy. So that's I think one takeaway that India should take from the Balakot.
A bit of history about Balakot that it just slipped my mind. I should have actually talked about it upfront when we started to talk. This was the first time Balakot was hit, by the way.
Okay.
Back in the 19th century, I think 1830s it was, if I'm getting the date right. Maharaja Ranjit Singh's army attacked Balakot exactly for the same reason.
Oh, wow.
There were extremist radical elements which are present-day terrorists.
Yeah.
There were hideouts of these of these Wahhabi groups, which Maharaja Ranjit Singh's army hit.
Wow. Interesting.
Same place.
Should have talked about this upfront.
Isn't it? Yeah, it's just slipped my mind. But never mind. I mean,
Yeah.
I think still, I mean, there will be. I think when in the teaser we can sort of
Yeah, we
have
will.
this.
We will definitely. Yeah.
So, it's the same kind of Wahhabi ideology that these terror groups, LET, JEM, Jaish-e-Mohammed, and all that they follow. So, 1830s. Very interesting coincidence.
Yeah. Right. Right. So so that's one takeaway, and I think the other one would obviously be the blue on blue that you described. But I think that you can bring it down to. I mean, it's a very unfortunate, but it's a mistake at the end of the day.
I don't agree.
Costly mistake, but still a human mistake.
Yeah, but you
Still,
can't
you can't pardon
say
it,
shit happens.
Yeah, of course you can't. I mean, that's the reason people lost jobs about.
Exactly, and the one good thing was that there was no hiding this.
Yes, true.
In fact, the Air Force chief, it was me, I think, who asked this question in the annual press conference. What's the status? And he said that the code of inquiry is complete and punitive action has been taken.
Has been taken. Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
So there was no hiding because you can't hide these kind of things. See, again, it would have been very easy for the Indian establishment when this happened to attribute it to the Pakistani.
Yeah. Of course.
At the worst, what would have happened? यही होता ना कि we lost a helicopter with our personnel on board in that Pakistani assault.
Yeah.
But what's worse? Hitting your
Own helicopter.
Guys, I think is worse. So we could have easily done that. But I think it was good that cover-ups were not done.
Yeah. Right.
Of course, it was it was an accident. I mean, let's put it this way. It was an accident. But these accidents happen because you panic.
Yeah. Right.
Doesn't reflect very well. One more interesting thing, maybe the last thing, an interesting one and a positive one. Also because Women's Day is coming. So on one of these Women's Day, I was doing these customary stories of women in the forces. So I happened to speak to some of the Air Force officers, women officers. This was post Balakot, of course. So one of them was a fighter controller. So for those who wouldn't know what a fighter controller is somebody who acts like the eyes and quite literally controls the pilot.
Okay.
The fighter pilot.
Yeah.
Gives directions, So sort of remote controls the pilot. Sorry to fighter pilots if they get offended. So she said perfect analogy she gave. That now I don't have to tell people to go and watch Top Gun to explain what I do.
Wow. Nice.
Great stuff by this officer.
Yeah.
And Minty Agarwal was one of the officers who was a fighter controller. She was given a gallantry award as well.
Yeah.
She was the fighter controller, I think, with Wing Commander Abhinandan.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Right.
So, or at least in that dogfight. I'm not sure if she was giving directions to him, but she was definitely part of that that operation. So, yeah, I mean, there's so many other people who play such an important role. Sort of a behind the scenes kind of guys. So much like you us reporters and then the anchors. Of course, the star anchors take all the limelight, but people on the desk like you are,
That is true. Thank you for that, I would say, a compliment. And I think on that note, we'll end this episode. Fun chat. It was like, reliving that day for both of us. Like I said before, it's unfortunate that some of our best days in our careers are when things are not really going well for somebody to somebody else somewhere. But that's what it is. So, fun chat. Thanks so much for taking out
Good to have you back, Dev.
Yes, and I look forward to many more chats with you. So thank you, and thank you to our listeners and viewers once again for constantly listening to us, and we'd really love to hear from you on what you think about our discussions and whether if there are any ideas that you have that you think we should talk about. Do let us know in the comments below, or you can email us at pods@indiaday.com. That's pods@indiaday.com. That's it for this week's Defense Dose. For more, tune in next week. Till then, stay safe and do not cross any boundaries without a passport. Bye-bye.